We're going to go ahead and get started. If you have not yet, please do make sure that you sign in. Really important for all of our good workday and auditing practices to make sure we know who was in the room and benefited from coffee and tea and snacks. So our agenda today is... Oh, sorry, I need to introduce myself. Good afternoon. My name is Amanda Figueroa, she, her. I work in Student Affairs as the Associate Vice Chancellor for Social Mobility.
I'm Bonnie Becker. I work for Academic Affairs as the Associate Vice Chancellor for Student Success. And the third part of our team, because we'll be presenting a lot of the work from this year, who has since been promoted to Academic HR, is Frankie Nogales. So we wanted to acknowledge him, given that we're going to be presenting work that we did together. And did you want to do?
Yes, thank you. First of all, would love for you to raise your hand if you've heard of the Student Success Strategy work, just heard of it. Awesome, thank you. And can you keep your hand up if you were in a Student Success Strategy working group? Awesome. And finally, can you put your hand up if you were a co-chair of a Student Success Strategy working group? Thank you. So we do have several folks on this campus who have been a part of this work, and we really appreciate and want to celebrate what was done last year and then what we're getting into this coming year. And so to that end, we're going to start by doing a welcome, looking at some data, talking about the outcomes from last year, what our priorities and the overview of what to expect this year. We're really excited about a student panel, so we're getting to hear what's on students' minds. And then we'll have an opportunity about how y'all can get connected to the work, stay connected, and then wrap up with some networking. So before we get started, we want to recognize that all of us at UW-Tacoma learn, live, and work on or near the ancestral homeland of the Coast Salish people. In particular, our campus is situated on the traditional territory of the Puyallup. And we want to also acknowledge, for those of us who are joining us virtually, that we also want to acknowledge the lands of the Muckleshoot, Nisqually, Suquamish, Duwamish, and all other traditional lands that we may be on. As people on these occupied territories, we have a responsibility to acknowledge the land, the ancestors who have cared for this land since time immemorial, and all our Indigenous connections today. We also have the responsibility to acknowledge the histories of dispossession and forced removal that have allowed for the growth and survival of this nation and institution. In light of this history, let us take active efforts to partner with our Indigenous community members and neighbors to seek justice as we continue our work together as a community of learners, leaders, and educators. One of the really exciting programs that have happened at UW-Tacoma is a preservation and expansion of Lushootseed, which is one of the languages of the traditional Coast Salish folks. And so if you have not yet seen this link, there is the Puyallup Tribal Nation has released a land acknowledgement in Lushootseed. And so if you have not yet seen that, it's a really wonderful video to watch and to watch the tribe lead that acknowledgement in their Indigenous language. So let's do really quick housekeeping. If you need a restroom, they are directly down that hall. They are all gender restrooms. And then for safety, just acknowledging that our emergency assembly point is right behind us on the Prairie Line Trail. The quickest way out is to go out these doors. There's ramps and stairs. So I do also want to acknowledge, just really quickly, that there's a lot of really important work about shaping the future of our campus that is happening right now. And so we've got a lot of folks that are doing work. This is not a comprehensive list of all the folks doing all the work, but just really want to acknowledge that folks may have heard about the academic plan. There's meetings today about our space planning for our future. There is the strategic enrollment management planning that has been really active on our campus, and our consultants were here 2 days ago. There's things like the student success strategy, the campus strategic plan, individual unit plans, and just wanted to take a moment and just highlight that there is no doubt in my mind that in order for UW-Tacoma students to thrive and for our campus to really flourish into the future, we will continue to want to share out information and be intentional about how these different endeavors are weaving together and braiding together to create a stronger campus. And so one of the things that you'll hear about is that we're really working hard together to identify these common goals and recognizing that all of our efforts are interdependent. My success depends on you being successful in your role, which depends on the person next to you being successful in their work. And with that, I'd like to take a moment and introduce and thank our two executive sponsors of the Student Success Strategy work, Dr. Andy Harris and Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, Mentha Hines-Wilson. Will you please join us up here and just share a few thoughts?
Well, thank you. And thank you. That was an exciting moment for me. Would you like to go first? Oh, there it is. Thank you all for your interest and for the work that went into this today. I'm going to come back to Amanda's comment about interdependence in a moment. What you'll hear today is that our retention rates are up. You may hear that our total student enrollment is up significantly over last year, much of which, many of whom are continuing students, which is a product of the student success efforts that we have already undertaken or are continuing here. But this morning I had an experience that takes me away from the numbers. Because I live at a level of abstraction that is full of numbers. But I was out on a boat with some students on Commencement Bay. I got off the boat about an hour ago, and I've just started feeling my hands again. It's colder out there, I will say. I strongly encourage you to take advantage of that opportunity if you can. It was students in an environmental science class, or maybe two classes combined, and they were out sampling for microplastics and sediment. At different stations, at different spots on the bay, each of them apparently a little bit colder than the one before it. While I was out there, I had a lot of conversations with students who are not actually unloading I'm a historian, so I'm just going to call it the sediment bucket, but I'm not sure what it actually was, but who weren't actually involved in the sampling. And what I heard was a fascinating cross-section of stories that are behind the new students who are here, the continuing students who are here, the improved retention rates. What I heard were students who talked about their advising experiences that led them to take this particular class or to choose this particular major. I heard about recruiting staff who encourage students to go through a particular program that evidently leads to being commissioned in several years in the Coast Guard, and that's why they are there. I saw students participating in what at a very ethereal level we call a high-impact practice, but what on the ground looks like students making their knowledge. It looks like students learning the craft directly, literally, hands-on. I saw the evidence of the student activity fees that paid for the boat to be rented. It is not cheap to rent a boat that is safe, and this was a safe boat. And I saw great teaching. I saw outstanding teaching happening right in front of me. And there, I got off, and when my hands thawed out, and I realized in a few minutes I'm going to go give some welcome comments to a student success kickoff, I thought, well, it's important for me to remember that all of these pieces fit together to lead to a great student experience, and those all fit together to a lot of great student experiences, which leads to our living our mission in a way that is robust and thriving, and that comes from everyone in this room right now. So, thank you.
So good afternoon, everyone. As I said, you know me well enough now that it's call and response, so I'll try it one more time. Good afternoon. Thank you so very much. Hopefully that has awakened you, and perhaps you'll need another cup of coffee. But I, too, want to echo what Andy has said about just the vibrancy that we're seeing on the campus right now. So it might feel as if there are more students on campus, and the reality is that is true. We have exceeded our enrollment goals, and we are up in every single category. So I would say give yourselves a round of applause for the work that you have done to make that happen. And so for me, it is about the work of the university as a whole and how all these efforts braid together to make a difference, but it's also about the personal stories, and it's about the personal work and the personal commitment. And so each and every day that I come to work, I remind myself of the fact that the individuals on this campus are coming to us with intentionality. They are seeking out UW-Tacoma for a reason. More often than not, that reason is to increase the quality of their life and the quality of their family's life. So we talk about it in academic terms in terms of career and social mobility. That is real. They're looking for a place where they can find community, a place where they know that people care about them and where they're going to be supported, a place where they can be challenged, but also a place where they know that at the end of the day, if I drop or if I fall, if I make a mistake, some great learning comes from that as well. And all of that work is because of the efforts of the folks that are assembled here in this room, the folks that are assembled in Zoom land, but also the entire campus. So I just want to express it from a personal perspective, that I am appreciative of your willing to invest in this work. You're willing to invest in each other. You're willing to invest in the student. Even the student that is frustrated and is not nice and is grumpy, we don't have many of them, but we do encounter them from time to time. But our work really matters. So my hope is that you will continue in this conversation, continue in this journey, continue with the work. Go back and talk with your colleagues in other departments and other staff members, other faculty members, and help them to understand that it is a village. The village is wrapping our arms around these students who are coming to us, some with high expectations, some no expectations at all. But I have an expectation that any student we admit to the University of Washington, Tacoma, we have a commitment to invest in them, and I believe we have an obligation to get them over the finish line with a degree in hand. So that is the work of student success. It's academic affairs, student affairs, everybody in between working together, the highs and the lows, but we celebrate the work each and every day, and find your joy in that, and know that you indeed are making a difference. And collectively, we are making a difference for students, for this community, for South Sound, and I would go on to say higher ed. There are not a whole lot of institutions that do the work that we do on the thin budget that we have. We can take some rotten lemons and make some sweet lemonade. And so I thank you for that, and I look forward to working with you all and continuing in this journey, and then also advocating more and more for additional resources so that we can indeed continue to grow our students' body or find the optimal enrollment, grow our academic programs, grow the quality of the services on campus, and to have fun along the way. So thank you.
All right, so as Amanda mentioned, we're going to have an opportunity to do a student panel, and we usually put that student panel at the end. First of all, so they can explore back, reflect back to us some of what they heard, but also because it keeps us on time. So today we're going to be giving you a little bit of a data update, and then we're going to be giving you an update on what happened last year, and then a preview of what we are expecting next year before we go to the part that most of us are here for, which is the student panel. So because of that, you know how much I love to talk about data, but I am going to keep it light. You can't really get somewhere if you don't know where you're going. There's the famous story of the kid who shoots an arrow into the side of a barn and then draws a target around it. Our working definition of our student success goal is for students to graduate at higher rates with engaged, meaningful experiences in and out of the classroom that prepare them for their next steps. They're supported by programming and campus structures that encourage academic excellence, degree completion, and career readiness equitably for all students. We also have a goal for how we work together. So we have really been trying to be intentional about how we build a culture of working together that we think is critical for the success of this initiative, but also can help to launch some other initiatives that we're hoping to start. So for the steering committee, we will all experience a joyful culture of working collaboratively to help students thrive while at UW-Tacoma and after graduation. And I would say it's beyond the steering committee. Hopefully everybody here can buy into that goal. But a goal without a plan is just a wish, as they say. So we do have key performance indicators. These come directly from the campus strategic plan. This is another attempt I have had to simplify the way that I present this. I'm not sure if I was successful, but the gist is we have goals for retention, graduation, and post-graduation, both a target for what we hit and also eliminating any equity gaps among students based on especially race and ethnicity. So you can see in this table our targets, and then you can see the 23, 24 numbers and the 24, 25 numbers. These numbers do fluctuate. And so that can make it a little bit challenging. I think when we talk about these things, it's like, bam, we're gonna get here and this is where they are. So for example, our one-year retention rate, which I think is the most helpful one, our goal is 88%. We started at 82.6. We are now at 85. Oh, sorry, last year we were at 85. This year we're at 86. So that one is probably the most sort of linear. We're moving in the right direction and we are getting close to that goal. However, our equity gap has grown, or has widened, I should say. And this is important. It is not something I want to talk about lightly, and something that we will continue to talk about in more detail. Just to give you this, because I like to see how it fluctuates through time to give you a sense of how variable these numbers are. So here on the left, this is just our one-year retention rate for our first-time in college students and for our transfer students. We're in purple, and then I put Bothell in gray just to give you something, some sort of benchmark to look at. And what you can see is over the past 4 years, our first time in college one-year retention rate has been on a steady increase. And our transfer rate fluctuates, but tends to be quite high even for the national average and tends to stay fairly close to UW-Bothell's. And then here is that widening equity gap that I was alluding to before, where it's not so much that any specific well, that isn't entirely true. It's not that URM students have had a declining retention rate, it's that the non-URM retention rate has gone up faster, if that makes sense. That was very quick, hopefully quick enough. But if this is the kind of thing you are interested, we would like to invite you to the first of a couple of what we are calling data parties. Data parties are not just for people who have the word data in their title. In fact, they are for everybody else. And so at these data parties, we'll be able to look at that data, because every time I present this, I feel like I'm waving my hands. Here's this thing, it's really important next. We're gonna have a chance to, in a fun way, spend some time with our retention data, and that is going to be here on October 23rd from 2 to 4, be there. So, who's next? Is it you? It's you.
So next we would like to just quickly review what were the outcomes from last year. So last year we implemented a, so in 22-23, so this is all building on each other. In 22-20, so building on each other, if we go way back, student success initiatives have been happening on this campus since it was started. This campus cares about student success. And so I just want to start by acknowledging that there are many people who are not represented on this slide who have been doing this work, who have really given us a really strong foundation to build off of. As Bonnie and I were supporting this, in 22-23, there was a group that came together and did a landscape analysis about where are national best practices, what are we doing, and where are our opportunities to really invest and support student success. That led to last year's initial effort with the Student Success Steering Committee that, again, has been building on what many people on this campus have been doing for a long time. Though there were 5 different areas of foci, so folks were focused on this, launching a SLATE student success module, on high impact practices, on first year experience, on removing curricular barriers and support for graduate students. We asked all of those groups to make sure that they were exploring strategies that were centered on students, that were focused on equity, that were informed by data, and that could also be nimble, that were sustainable, and also recognize the interdependent nature of student success work. If you would like to read the full report about what happened last year, there's a QR code there and a bit link where you can download that final report for everything that happened last year. What we're about to share is a very high-level overview. The other thing that we did with this particular model is that we are part of a national network of first-generation forward campuses, and through that work, we were invited to do some trainings, and so we worked with SOVA Solutions to implement frameworks of continuous improvement in our student success work, and framed that continuous improvement work for what we aspired to do last year is to focus on what we called first 3 students. So as we were looking at first year retention data, we saw that the biggest group of folks that we were losing were first time in college students in their first year who are first gen. And so we asked all of our groups to really think about their work through that lens of helping to retain that population, knowing that was going to have the biggest impact on our retention of students. We also asked our groups to focus on eliminating equity gaps. And then we asked also the groups to think about how their work intersected with supporting students in creating a sense of belonging, but also developing a sense of purpose. And so with that, I'm very happy to introduce our coach. Most of our co-chairs are here and are able to present or at least have a representative. And so we'll start with the first year experience group, which was co-chaired by Joyce Dinglansan Panlilio, Stefan Harris, and Deirdre Raynor.
Thanks, Amanda. I'm also petite, so let's see where I think I could see where the screens are. Oh, it's a challenge, vertically challenged. But it's great to be here with all of you folks. And as you just heard Bonnie, so it was a pleasure working with Stefan Harris from Student Affairs and Dr. Deirdre Raynor, who is our lead in the Office of Undergraduate Education. But there were so many folks. What was so interesting about working within this particular group was these are just the co-chairs, but a lot of the work and the feedback that we got were from a whole bunch of staff and other faculty that really, and Samkara is here, and we've got other folks that I can't even begin to name. But realize that as I was listening to Bonnie about the impact of first year, she just pointed out how crucial that first year retention was, and that really ties into the work that our group really tried to do, still working on, and what really the take-home message is, there's a heck of a lot more work for us to do. But what we started with, and sitting in this group, was the overwhelming sense of how important the first year experience is. And so we spent quite a bit last year just doing a lot of sense making. Right, because we needed to understand, we needed to be within the lens of our first year students. And we were getting lots of feedback from faculty, from folks from Student Affairs, from our staff from the library, of what is it like to be a first year student here at UW-Tacoma. So we wanted to have this understanding, and to do that, we wanted to hear from students. We wanted to hear from each of the 3 categories that we were focusing in. And so we did student journey maps. And so it took us a while actually to get here, but it was a really great exercise to really go through quarter by quarter of their first year. And from that lens, trying to figure out what is it that our students are feeling. And from there came a whole bunch of suggestions of what we can do. And a lot of money that we need to do that. And so what we came up from here is we needed help. The chairs, the co-chairs, and the work group needed help to try to prioritize what we wanted to do. And so what we are coming up with is, so in the report, we've narrowed down all of this into major ones that we want to. Not that we're not going to do all of the other things. We even tried to do some graphing of high impact, low cost analysis versus high impact, high cost. Andy's not going to probably see some of those yet. We'll see. But what we wanted to do moving forward is to highlight a few of those things that really came out that we hope will really move the noodle in the first year experience. So that, and that revolves around really community building, major exploration, and our second year programming. And so what we also came up, which Bonnie has called the spin-off, was, again, all Bonnie encouraging a few of us co-chairs. So it was myself from first year experience, Anaid Irena from graduate student experience, Emma Rose from the high impact practices group, and my dean, Natalie Eschenbaum from the curricular barriers group. We all took a lovely trip to Vegas to learn about how to improve student belonging in our classrooms. And so we are bringing in, we've been very successful, and thank you to Academic Affairs for helping support as part of what we want to do to impact first year experience is the launching of the UW Tacoma, our first year of the Student Experience Project. What this is about gathering faculty. And we had a meeting early this morning, actually, with the cohort, and faculty who we invited. These are faculty who are teaching courses that are that we know has a huge impact in their pathway into their majors, and we encourage them to work with us to incorporate what we call low labor, low stakes adjustments that they can do in their classroom to help improve their student belonging. I have one of my students here who actually experienced, Jose over there is one of our tutors, and he's here. And what he is, I hope you can ask him later how all of this is impacting him. I, as a facilitator of the SEP, which we call SEP, is trying to do it myself with my students in the class that I'm teaching right now. We have tried to improve our syllabus, to improve our language, to make sure that we are communicating that faculty are not out to get them. We are actually here on the opposite extreme of wanting to really see them succeed. We are trying to incorporate just creating feedback that would encourage them despite the courses being challenging. And we want to survey to see how they're feeling, whether they actually really feel comfortable learning in the class. And so all of that, we're hoping it's a full year project and hoping that we are starting a community of practice. We want more faculty to learn. So the faculty that we're working with, we hope will start a whole new group of faculty next year. And it's like, in biology, mitosis, and we're just spreading this ability to help our students feel belong. So I think I'm over my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. And so next we are really happy to invite Ashley Walker to come up and join us. Ashley is a longtime champion for graduate student support and success, and she co-chaired this group along with Connor Leary from Student Affairs and Anaid Yarena from Urban Studies.
Thank you, Amanda. So I just want to take some time real quick to I think we have folks online too, right? Mm-hmm. But just shed some light on our fab team, Bonnie, Amanda, and Frankie, who led us and supported us through this entire last year. So that was very, very crucial and helpful for us in the work that we were doing. But what it boils down to is that our graduate students have been here since our undergrad students have been here, right? And so we need to bring more attention and support for our graduate students. So that was the main focus of our task group. First and foremost, I want to mention that we talk about first time in college, and first generation, and those kind of are our themes for campus, but that's also our theme for graduate students as well, right? So they are first generation, maybe first time in graduate school, so they're learning a lot of new things and being in spaces that they're typically not maybe used to from undergrad studies. So just highlighting that this community needs support. So first and foremost, we have our tri-campus focus, which We have Bothell, right? And then we have Seattle. So our graduate programs mainly are under the umbrella of the graduate school. But we also have UW-Bothell that just recently hired an assistant director for graduate studies. So we were able to kind of mimic and use their process for potentially bringing similar position to the UW-Tacoma campus. So I'm hoping we've moved the needle, or the noodle, I'm sorry, a little bit with having some more support for our graduate students by having a liaison who can connect tri-campus, but specifically to Seattle, connecting Seattle and Tacoma to bring more focus on our graduate students and their needs of support. So I'm happy to say I don't think we need folks for next year for this specific group because we were able to move the noodle a little bit in that regard. So more to come there, which I'm excited about. But also we were talking about orientations for graduate students specifically. So I don't think it's anything additional that we need to do, but more of an extension, an expansion, so to speak. I've heard that word thrown out. So orienting our graduate students on campus. Now, majority of the time, our graduate students have other focuses outside of the educational realm that they're contributing to, so their careers, families, that thing, but similar to undergrad students. But they're still having to familiarize themselves with the campus, right? And so they need to know about the resources that we provide, whether it's the TLC Center, the library, the pantry, pause, all of these things that our grad students are also utilizing so that they can learn part of their orientation. Right now, that's the responsibility of each academic unit, which puts more responsibility on the advisors to not only recruit, retain, work with enrollment, but also orient these graduate students to campus as well. So I'm happy to hear that we might potentially be having an orientation framework for these students too. And last but not least, our sense of belonging. So I think this kind of ties into overall all of the discussions that we've been having with all of our students on campus, but a sense of belonging for graduate students as well. Typically, our graduate students are coming to campus in the evenings or the weekends, and not so much during the lunch hour, which a lot of our events are scheduled during the lunch hour when our graduate students are typically in their professions or not on campus. So establishing ways for to establish a sense of belonging, whether that's events or, I don't know, RSOs. I think we're thinking about creating a graduate student-focused RSO, but even highlighting our ASUWT, right, by putting more graduate students on there too. So that's just a little bit of what we worked on last year. I loved my my co-chairs, and the folks that supported us. We had faculty, students, and staff on this task force, and I'm excited to see the work continue.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Next, we'd like to welcome up Emma Rose and Don Williams, who co-chaired the High Impact Practices Group along with Annie Downey, who has left us for a different university, but to whom we will be forever grateful for her work on this.
Yeah, we're tag teaming with this one, so yeah. This was a really great year, and much like was said before, we also did a lot of meeting making over the year, but really was also kind of focusing on that consensus building. You know, high impact practices, there are so many to choose from, and so it seemed very big and overwhelming initially. So we did a lot of work and as discussion and kind of voting as a committee to focus on two different ones, so undergrad research and community engaged / global learning. Where our focuses were really focusing in on the first three population of students. Did you want to? Oh, okay. Okay. And then we also did a lot of it.
I can go next if you want. I know we talked about it. I was just thinking, yeah. Okay, sorry. The other thing we did was engage local partners. So UW-Bothell has this amazing Office of Connected Learning where they centralize high-impact practices. And high-impact practices are both the learning experiences that happen in and outside of the classroom. They're great for all students, but they're particularly helpful for underrepresented students and marginalized students. And so that's why we feel the need to up these practices on our campus, make them visible because they are happening on our campus, but also make them accessible accessible to students and have more of them. So from our local partners, we learned a lot from Bothell. I feel like we always do when we talk to them. We also worked with our Research Advisory Council, and then also there's a tri-campus effort on community engagement as well. And so I think one of the things that summed up this first part of our consensus building and learning was vacuums and silos. Like, a lot of this work is happening, but it's often happening in ways that is not connected, and people don't understand all the cool stuff that's going on. And then the vacuums, when there wasn't something happening, us just coming in the room and asking made everybody very activated and excited. And I think that happened around undergraduate research in particular. There's a lot of appetite for doing more of that.
And so one thing we did is we did an analysis on kind of the course offerings. So there's a lot of things that happen sometimes in the upper division, but we really wanted to take a hard look at what the data said about what was happening on the lower division. So again, thinking of those first time in college, first generation students. And so we were looking at the R and S courses, and there were only 2 R courses and 1 S course in the lower division that had those elements. So we saw a huge potential need or gap where we could fill in by hopefully finding ways to add more things in the classroom, which is the most equitable way to give access to experiences for students, because everyone has to take class. And having things on top of that isn't always doable for all of our students who have others outside of commitments. Am I talking about the next one too? Okay. All right, and then we also have started working on an online faculty and resource. And so what we started to do is like kind of finding, like, we don't have a high impact practice center yet on our campus, but wanting to find a way to start as we think about, again, like Emma said, there are things happening all around campus already, and we see other great things in other institutions. So if we're finding like resources and research and activities and things, finding a place to house them. So we've actually started the process of creating an online resource using the library guides is the format. And so I'm working with Liz in the library to create that as a kind of a starting point. So as we kind of start to gather these resources together, we have a place to house them for faculty and staff to be able to access those resources to help improve and access those things in the activities they're doing with students both inside and outside the classroom.
Great, and then we capped off the year by attending, there was a 5-person team of faculty and staff who attended the AAC&U HIP Summer Institute, which was a very intense learning activity. And what came out of that was a plan that we hope to implement this year as a starting point. So thank you to Andy for the funding to go to that. And I think that's it. We're excited about the year ahead. Lots to do, clearly.
Thank you so much. And finally, removing curricular barriers. And slate. Just kidding, not finally, almost finally. Removing curricular barriers, which was co-chaired by Natalie Eschenbaum and Lindsay Clark and David Ross, who also left our campus for another position. And since they are unable to be here with us, Bonnie's going to present what they did.
It's kind of big shoes to fill, but I can give you sort of a brief description of what happened in the curricular barriers group. They spent a lot of time doing a lot of analysis, and this included both looking at data. They had an IR partner on this team, looking at data, but also I see Will is here doing a lot of advisor surveys. They did some student focus groups. And so they identified 2 things that they are focused on. One is around transfer equivalency, which is something that if you've been to events this week, I feel like we have talked about quite a bit. They wrote a white paper describing the challenges and potential solutions, and there's a tri-campus task force that is going to try and tackle this. Apparently we got real close, I hear, right before COVID, but that is the kind of thing that makes a huge difference in students' time here, literally, how much time they spend here, and also their ability to come here with a full understanding of how their transfer credits are going to transfer. And then they did a very intensive course analysis. So classically in student success, we talk about DFW rates, which are basically courses that have high fail rates. But this group made their own index that we thought was more useful to us called NSPG, which is non-satisfactory progress grade, which accounted not just for simple grades, but about courses that either students aren't getting good enough grades to go on to the next course, and also courses that they need to go on to the next course. So they've been really working to be thoughtful to generate a list of courses that are critical to student progress. And so they're using that this year, we'll talk about this year, to talk about interventions and ways that they can help resource those courses to help students as they go through them. And so, for example, the SEP wasn't just high NSPG courses. There was a range of different factors that went into who was invited to the SEP, but that's the kind of intervention that, that we could be doing. And with that, last but certainly not least, Andrea.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andrea Coker-Anderson. I serve the University of Washington-Tacoma as its registrar as well as its director of financial aid. I had the pleasure and the privilege of being a co-chair for the Slate for Student Success implementation. My co-chair, who is Beth Ann Hoover, has the privilege of being, I think, somewhere maybe in the air on her way to the UK right now. So good for her. I'm here representing our journey for this last year. What we know about Slate, and we are learning a lot, is it's a CRM, a customer relation management database. It is a tool, right? It is a tool that already exists for us in the admissions office. We know we needed something, and we've known it for years. And what we have right now is a tool that we can't get reports out of, that is quite aged in its conception, its technology. So when the opportunity came to kind of build off of the admissions database, we took it. And that has meant a year of this journey. What it has also done is created a coordination. And that's the joy of all of this, is that working together with Beth Ann, other advisors, I see them in the room here, we are in that development for this product that is going to change our campus. I fully believe it will. It will change and put us into, may I say, the 21st century. It will be an industry standard tool. We have also the joy of kind of tagging on to others that have done this before. And we've created these very deep relationships with Seattle University. We have a great contact there. They're about a year-ish ahead of where we are, and we are learning from both their successes as well as their challenges. Our campus team, they're rock stars, frankly. It is a combination of IT, because it has to be, it's a software. It is also the enrollment side, both the registrars, admissions team, because again, admissions has already been doing this for a number of years. We're gonna learn from them. It is also advisors at all different kinds of levels. So what is the synergy of that relationship and this project is really going to move us forward, move the noodle. I have to say the noodle. At one moment in this presentation, we are moving forward because of that relationship and the collaboration that we have within our areas. We also have a consultant, because we can't do this on our own. And one of the things we were lucky about, we went to Slate Summit, and it's 4,500 people. If you get a chance to go, it's the craziest place. I've been doing this for a long time. It's the craziest conference I've ever been to. But the network there is real, it's deep, and people want you to use this tool and succeed. So that was a really exciting thing to happen. What we're gonna get from this is we're gonna have initially a rollout of advising related functions, mostly around appointments, notes, forms, communications, all of these things are going to be in this system. One of the things that, again, we haven't been able to do is report out on that, and that's what we're going to get in Slate. We have selected a consultant named Kennedy & Company. They are engaged with us on a weekly basis. We have weekly check-ins. We have homework, lots of it. We are compiling information from many, many different offices. I asked Dwayne something last week. We're just really trying to collaborate way beyond the typical silos and barriers of our campus to make sure that everybody is engaged. We're all going to benefit from this new tool. That is all I want to say. But we're rolling it out, I forgot that part, in the spring. So we're gonna have an initial rollout in the spring and phasing those in, I think until I retire. So there you go. But it will literally transform the way that we work together, the way we serve students, and it will benefit all of us, students particularly, to have the coordination that this tool is going to give us.
So I hope you see just how much thought and energy has gone into all of these projects. Can you join me in just thanking all of these groups for their hard work this year? So, what are we planning on doing next year? And so one of our main underlying values is a desire to have an eye towards continuous improvement, to always be evaluating how things are going and then making adjustments as we go. So Ashley has already alluded to this, that we were not planning to have the graduate group in this format, because this is, you can kind of almost think of this as an incubator, right? Like the recommendations and ideas can spin out of these groups and then turn into people's everyday work. That's the long-term goal. So, without further ado, the big announcement of what are the groups for next year. So obviously, Slate Student Success and Removing Curricular Barriers are continuing on with the work that they have presented here today. High Impact Practices already talked a bit about this plan that they had that they wanted to implement. And then the first year experience had a couple of different themes and just found that to be a very big, task we were asking of them. So the Student Experience Project that Joyce has already described to you and that Joyce, Emma, and Anaid and Darcy are leading on campus. We have our first group that is already cohort that is already going through that. And then a new group called Scaffolding First Year Exploration, which calls back to the theme around major exploration that came out of that first year experience group. We are thrilled that many of our co-chairs are able to continue on with us, and we have a few new co-chairs who are joining us today. So those folks are all up on the screen. I will point out the folks who are new to us, which is the Scaffolding Majors Exploration Group is going to be co-chaired by Alex Miller from IIS, Juliet from the Milgard School of Business, and DJ from the Office of First Gen. So welcome to the team. We're super excited to have you here.
And while I'm covering this next slide, I do want to invite the folks that are participating in the student panel, come on up here, get settled in, and I'm just going to quickly make sure this table doesn't trick you. Be careful. And then talk about our timeline for this year. So here we are. So one of the things about continuous improvement is that it's about quick deliverables on quick timelines. And so just noting that we are here on October 10th at the campus kickoff. In a few days, our co-chairs are getting together for their orientation. Bonnie already alluded to the data party, and then we've got a really fast cycle of 90 days, and then we launch into planning again. Last year, we were able to hit all of our milestones and are really excited to continue to build on this, but also make some adjustments to better reflect what happens in spring quarter when we all go crazy because there's so much happening. And with that, if you have questions, we're certainly welcome to ask them at the end during our networking time. But now we want to transition and pivot to hear from the students who have joined us today. And we're very pleased to be also joined by Dr. Dwayne Chambers, who is going to moderate the student panel.
All right. Thank you guys very much for staying all the way. So my name is Dwayne Chambers, and my position is director of the quantitative side of the TLC. And so you'd probably think to yourself, like, you want to know more about the numbers. And I do. I do love the quantitative, but the qualitative is also a strong motivator. So earlier this week, somebody said, like, you know, hey, Dwayne, could you cover my class on Thursday? And I thought to myself, yes. Of course, I would love to cover your class. I want to know who is in, the class is Calculus 2, and I was like, I want to know who's in Calculus 2. And one of the major reasons is I really enjoy our student stories. So, you know, there's many different reasons why you will do a job, but for me and for many of you here as well, when you hear what our students are doing or hear who our students are, it's such a strong motivator. And as we're talking about these initiatives that we have, we want to know how are these initiatives working. We want to know who these initiatives are affecting. And so we have an awesome panel of 4 students. So I'm going to ask our students to introduce themselves. I have they've gotten some of the questions before, so they're prepared. And so what I'm going to ask you is, I'm going to ask you, would you introduce your name, what year you are and major, if you can discern your year. I know sometimes it's hard to know what year you truly are. And then I want you to explain through what lens or lenses are you viewing your experience at UW-Tacoma. And so Collins, let's start off with you.
Test, okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Collins. I am a junior here, studying computer science with a minor in mathematics. And I guess the lens that I kind of view my experience here is about 9 years ago, I immigrated from East Africa, from Kenya. And so most of my elementary education was in Kenya, and then coming here, high school and middle school. And so, yeah, I'm a first-gen student and kind of taking this experience from that lens. And yeah, thank you.
Hello, my name is Haname. I use she, her pronouns. I am a grad student in the Advanced Standing Social Work program, but I also attended in my bachelor's with social work, and then I also had a minor in business administration. I'm very connected at the UW-Tacoma campus. I have like 3 jobs now. I am a SAM, so I'm a student advising mentor with the office the university academic advising. I am a PSM, so I'm a peer success mentor with the Teaching and Learning Center. And then I am also a case manager with my practicum with the Office of Student Advocacy and Support. And I'm just so thankful for all the opportunities that UW-Tacoma has given me. I am also a DRS student, which means I have a disability. So I also seek services for that at UW-Tacoma. And then I also have interacted with the VMRC because I'm also a military connected student. So it's a lot, but yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Donalyn. I actually just graduated in June, but I still work here, so that's why I'm here. But my major was in psychology, and I minored in education and community engagement. I am a first-generation student and very proud of it, and second-generation Asian American. I work here as a writing tutor and have worked at a community college as well as a writing tutor, so I've worked with a lot of students there. And been very involved in undergraduate research in the psych department, notably the Access in STEM program. I feel like that informs a lot of kind of what I think of when I hear a lot of what's going on here too. So excited to share a little bit more from those lenses. And I was also a transfer student. So I transferred here from Green River College as a non-traditional student as well, being in my late 20s as opposed to coming straight from high school.
Hi, everybody. I hope you're not falling asleep yet. My name is Jose Borboya. I am from Mexico. This is my junior year on the biomedical science major, currently trying to hold up to the speed of Dr. Joyce. What can I say? My experience here is I came from Mexico last year. So firstly, a fresh immigrant. I'm really excited to be here, and I consider UW my second home because of how friendly some of the staff has been. Most of the staff are friendly, but especially some of the staff has been exceptionally helpful during my path over here. And honor to whom honor deserves. I love to see Lindsay Clark names over there because she especially helped me a lot coming also as a refugee. So I'm really happy to be here. I'm happy to answer any of your questions. I also work for my lovely boss, Cara, as a peer success mentor, and I'm really happy to be able to transmit what UW has showed to me as a second home to other fellow students that may be lost because of translation or just because here is cold. And some of us come from a desert, and we don't know that there's a seasonal depression disorder. Yeah, thank you.
All right, Jose, why don't you keep a hold of the microphone, and we're going to go reverse order. And the first question that I think I have and that many people have is, why did you choose UW-Tacoma?
Whoa, okay. So, of course, when I came here, I was a guy from Mexico that didn't have any documents to be able to go to any school. So I went to some of the schools over here. The area was the best for me because I was able to stay close to family. So, the best area in Washington. Then, U of T was actually the only school that looked at me as a person and as a student rather than as a number or as immigration status. And there was the only school that actually opened the doors for me and were like, hey, you are not what anybody else is telling you. You're actually a student and we see a future in you. And that's why also I will always grateful to John Langston and Tracy Pete because they were the first staff here that were like, Jose, you're welcome here. We want you to succeed here. And we don't care where you come from, what languages you speak. We want you to be the best version of yourself. Also, heads up to Dwayne, because he did Spanish mathematics for me. But yeah, that's pretty much the main reason why I chose U of T. You guys truly make this feel like a second home, especially for some of us that are miles away from where we are from. Thank you.
So actually, when I graduated from high school, I was enrolled in UW Seattle, and it was very competitive, and I did not like that. And so when I decided to go back to start my undergrad again 6 years later, I was really drawn to UW Tacoma's smaller campus and the diversity as well, and just knowing that I was going to be in a smaller classroom was really, really, really beneficial for me. I was deciding between another school and UW Tacoma at the time. The other school was a private school, and they also gave me money and had a small classroom size, but again, it was just the diversity, the campus environment, and just that sense of belonging that I could see from the outside already. It didn't feel as exclusive as the other school that I was considering at the time. And so, yeah. And then also, I think the Husky Promise, too, was a really, really big thing for me, too, as a non-traditional student coming back and, dealing with financial aid. That was very big for me.
The reason why I came to UW Tacoma, I was also a transfer student. I've always been very passionate about human services, and so I knew that when I came to UW Tacoma that I really wanted to be in the social work program here. So that's what really brought me here, because I love this program, I love this school. Because of my disability, I knew that I needed more one-on-one with my professors. I knew that I needed smaller, more intimate classroom settings, and that's the biggest appeal that UW Tacoma brought to me. And then I guess for grad school, I don't think I would have ever gone to grad school if it wasn't for my experience within my bachelor's here. They really, I guess all of my instructors, all of my advisors, they really inspired me to kind of you can do this. It doesn't matter what type of background you have or how young you are, you can go to grad school, you can handle it. And so, yeah, I've just felt so much passion within my program here, and I just feel so thankful for that. So, yeah.
For me, I think the reason I came to UW-T, actually, I think I remember I applied to UW Seattle in Central Washington, and then my counselor in high school was like, "Hey, you should apply to UW Tacoma. Through our high school, you're gonna get accepted." And I didn't apply until the last day, and so I remember it was January 15th, and turn in the application. I didn't really think about it too much because I was like, I can go to UW Seattle, I can go to Central. But then as I researched into it more and as I looked at, I think as many of my peers here have mentioned, the smaller campus size and the smaller classroom size, and being able to interact with your professors, being able to have that intimate relationship, and being able to I've heard in UW Seattle, the beginning 100-level courses, 400, 300 students. And I think for me, I'm more of a person who is very kind of social and would like to interact, ask questions to my professors. And so as I looked more into that, and also it was pretty close to home. I live down the road in Lakewood, about 20 minutes away. And also the financial aid and financial status and being able to get a scholarship to come here. And it wouldn't put a burden on my mom, who is a single mom. And so coming here was the best option. And I don't regret being here, yeah.
Well, thank you guys. I just want to let you guys who are in the audience know, if you do have a burning question, feel free to raise your hand, and I will notice you. I do have a set of questions here, though, but if you have a burning question, let me know. Also, if I'm reading the room or the panel correctly, we have 2 transfers and then 2 students who also came here basically as freshmen, or at least this was your first school coming into. So we'll have questions. Keep that in the back of mind. It wasn't one of the questions handed to you, but you might get questions on that. So what barriers, curricular or otherwise, have you observed so far in your field of study? And then what, if any, have your friends encountered?
I'll just jump in. So I, as a student advising mentor, I think I was one of the student focus groups, or we talked about it one time. And so I can kind of just echo what we've all talked about, which is more so the weeding out classes, the sequence classes where students will get holed up and, you know, Chem 141, they weren't able to transfer to Chem 142. That's like the biggest issue that I've faced with curricular barriers. I am also within the social work, it is a cohort-based model, so I have never had to stress out about, you know, registering in time or having, being overwhelmed, whereas like a lot of students that I interact with, they get very overwhelmed because, you know, they have a class that's only offered in autumn quarter, you know, but they need to take it so that their timeline isn't all screwed up later on. So that was a big barrier that we've talked about before, and just echoing kind of what we also talked about in the presentation. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Well, just to kind of come back to something that I said about Dwayne, during my first 2 quarters here, mostly the first one, I really understood was learning on a second language. It was. And it was hard. There was some expressions that I was like, what? Could you repeat that slower? And definitely at my first quarter, I was not confident enough, or a little bit shyer, and being like, hey, like, I don't really understand you, professor. But then, in the TLC, that actually also, it's an amazing place. In Mexico, I did not experience anything as a TLC, and when I came here and I was like, there's a place with tutors? That's amazing. But when I started going to a TLC and I start asking questions, one of the main things that I saw with friends that had to change their majors because of how hard learning sciences were in a different language was sometimes words or expressions do not translate the same. And the opportunity to have tutoring or have the effort from other professors, or for example, like Dwayne did a special Spanish pre-calc oriented class with a tutor with us. And that was really helpful. I think that's why I'm in Calc 2 now. But to have that experience of being able to have, to feel heard, to feel okay to be shy, to be okay to not understand, that's something that as someone who came here and is learning on a second language is really appreciated. The fact that you can raise your hand in the middle of the class and be like, professor, can you repeat that? That is very helpful. Another thing that I also want to say is, as a peer success mentor, some of us had the idea of starting doing peer mentoring in bilingual or different languages, and that's something that has also brought more students in. So I'm really happy to say that here we feel supported. At least that's what I've felt before, and I feel like I have to do the same. So I wish to continue providing resources or like this, sharing my experience with you guys, so you know that when you think about people who come from different backgrounds or people who speak different languages, you're actually making a difference. and you're actually making us closer to fulfill our careers or our dreams. So thank you.
I do have some things to say on the research side. I feel like one of the barriers for me, well, for some of my peers, is that research opportunities were not very accessible, especially in the psychology and SIAS, no, just psychology. Just because I've seen like what they have for SAMRs and like kind of wished that we had something similar for psych and like for students in my major to get engaged in research in ways that were meaningful to them and not have to like overstretch themselves trying to figure it out. Like I figured it out somehow. I like literally don't know how I did it, but I think it was just talking to professors and them being like, oh yeah, come do this. But I wish that that was a bigger thing, like especially when we're talking about like high impact practices. I remember back in spring, I got this scholarship through the UW Seattle campus. I mean, it was like a tri-campus thing, but primarily through the UW Seattle campus. And I was required to present at this symposium that I was not able to attend, and thankfully like we got it all worked out for me to find like a way to fulfill the requirement for my scholarship, but at the same time it was like really hard and like a very big barrier to have to go all the way up there just to do this not competition, but this symposium just to present my work. Like it's like, you know, it takes an hour for me to get there just to be there for this 45-minute slot. And so I was like, oh, I really wish we had something here on our campus where it was a wider spread undergraduate research symposium, like not just SAMRs, but other majors as well, to kind of celebrate that culture of research even here, because there are a lot of things that students here are doing, but maybe we don't have as much opportunity to, I guess, like engage our community and like be proud of the work that we're doing outside of that, if that makes sense. But yeah, that was a really big deal to me.
For me, I would say, I think coming in as a freshman, just being able to realize that like there's no one who's gonna like hold your hand like in high school, and you're not being forced to study, but you kind of have to take up your own responsibility and kind of accept the responsibility of learning. And I think for me, when I first came here, I had to really relearn and kind of, because I struggled a lot with like procrastination and doing my assignment last minute and not really caring so much about what was due. But then I realized that like this is actually serious and I have to actually do my part of it. And also I think the TLC really was a resource that really helped me because, so one of the barriers that some of my friends and students face is like the calc series, having to take the math series to be able to get into the major, or the coding series. And I think, like she said, certain classes being offered at certain quarters. And one of my encouragements to them is, come to the TLC, get some help whenever you're struggling with math or computer science courses. And so, yeah.
I'm cognizant of our time. I am very cognizant of our time. I do have a set of questions, but are there any questions from the audience? Is there any burning questions that, I see a question here, okay. No, so the question that was asked from the audience was, did we pay them to talk about the TLC that much? No, that is per chance, but I believe all for our TLC employees. So apologies for, there's some amount of homogeny going on. Are there any other questions before we switch off, or do you want me to continue on with the panel, actually? Okay. Panel, I know you have actually prepared a number of other questions, so before we release you, is there anything that any of you wanted to answer or say before we actually, thank you, before we continue? So any final words on the panel? I see, Danlin, that you have the microphone. I don't know if you wanted to say something.
I guess for me, I just want to say thank you to all the faculty and staff for the opportunities, the resources that have been provided, for example, with the student affairs, with the Center for Student Involvement. And like I said, with the TLC, for me especially coming in as a freshman, it really, really like helped me, and being able to see faces, familiar faces, and being able to relate with the diversity here. And I'm just really thankful for all the resources and all the opportunities that have been presented. And so, yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you guys very much. Oh, yes.
No, not anymore.
No. Please.
I just wanted to say, yes, we all work for the TLC, but who wouldn't like to work on a place that feels like home? So, thank you. And also, just thank you guys for your efforts, for looking on the students and looking on our difficulties. And sometimes you picture things that we don't even know we're dealing with. So thank you. Thank you for looking out for us. And feel free to reach out to us for anything. I think that if we are here, at least the four of us, we are interested in the school. We feel like we love this school.
Yes.
So feel free to look for us. We are happy to, also the TLC, but feel free to, we are here for you too. Like, we want to help as well, you know? So yeah, thank you for your time and for listening to us yap a little bit.
Thank you, guys.
So thank you so much. We are going to start our closing, where we're going to have some time for networking. But before we do, I noticed that Holly was able to come. So our ASUWT President, Holly Wetzel, is here. So if you don't mind just coming up and closing us out. So while Holly's on her way up, I'll just give you a sense of where we're going. So for the next 10 or so minutes, we'll have some time for networking. We have representatives from almost every group. If you want to ask any questions, come and ask me and Amanda any questions. And then I'm going to leave this information up for you so that you can put it in your calendar and whatnot. Thanks, Holly.
Yeah, of course, I'm glad I was able to make it. I'm so happy to see so many people here. I've been hearing about this student success work over the past year or so, and I'm just honestly impressed by how much has been able to get done and where it plans to go. And student government really hopes to continue to promote this work and support everything that you two continue to do. So I just wanted to, I'm just here to express how wonderful all of you all are for being here and for continuing to support this work and going above and beyond for students. So just thank you.
Did you want to? Thank you.
So just as a final closeout, there's still plenty of coffee and tea and snacks. And in the spirit of collaborative joy, let us collaboratively enjoy some coffee and tea and snacks, saying hello to each other. And then we look forward to hopefully seeing you at the data party, which frankly, I am ordering like LED glow-in-the-dark stuff. So this is going to be a real party, not like just we're trapping you in surprise. We're going to look at spreadsheets all day. So we really hope you join us. So thank you all so much for all that you do, and we look forward to talking to you soon.